Savage warns, stop the mobs or nation will fall. That's what we're going to talk about today. I have a lawyer on, my good friend Dan Horowitz at 12:30. I can't say 12. At the bottom of the hour to tell you what you can do if you're attacked by Antifa or other mobs. Because everyone's asking me, what can we do? The left is out of control. Eric Holder is saying when they go low, kick them. Hillary is saying let's have a civil war. They're all trying to outdo each other in appeasing the left-wing fanatical mobs. Now, of course, what you have to understand is it's coming to your doorstep whether you want it or not. They're at war, and they want to bring the war to your door. Want me to rap for you? We're at war, and they want to bring the war to your door. I'll rap for you. So you're asking yourself, what are your legal rights to defend yourself? You don't know. Well, okay. Dan Horowitz and I had a discussion this morning about the law on this, and you'll be surprised what you can actually do if they do to you what they did to that man in Portland, Oregon, when these left-wing scum ran after the car and hit his car with pipes. Do you know that you have the right to defend yourself if your car is attacked by a mob? You don't have to sit there and whine and call the police. And you're going to find out what you actually can do to these people. So now I tweeted this morning, Savage warns, stop the mobs or nation will fall. And I gave some of my solutions. One, what are the solutions to stopping the left-wing Democrat mob violence? One, pull the nonprofit status of the ACLU and all Soros-funded groups. That's number one. Trump has that authority to authorize the IRS to pull the ACLU's 501c3 status because they violated all of the rules of a 501c3 when they came out against Kavanaugh. He can pull all of the 501c3, which is the nonprofit status, of all the front groups that George Soros funds. And if these mobs are not funded, you're going to pull a lot of the action off the streets. Number two, enact the Espionage Act. Enact the Espionage Act. And if you can prove that any of these leaders, National Lawyers Guild, ACLU, I can name 10 other groups, they're all to be found and stopped. I know, you want me to say it? I'm not allowed to say it. You're upset that I say that my book's name is Stop Mass Hysteria. I'll say it again. Enact the Espionage Act and arrest the leadership if they're violating the Espionage Act. And here's a nice one for you. I've looked very carefully at the videos of the left-wing mobs, and they're filled with illegal aliens who are being brought out to these riots, especially here on the West Coast, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle. They are filled with non-citizens. Deport any alien caught in mob actions. Arrest them immediately and deport them right over the border. Now, Dan Horowitz is here. Dan, are you with us? Dan should be here. I don't know where he is. I was told he's on the board, but he isn't, apparently. I guess he's not on the board, but when he's here, we'll get him up. Are you there, Dan Horowitz?
Gotcha.
Okay, until Dan, are you here, yes or no? I need to know.
I'm here. Gotcha.
All right. Now, I have a caller from New York who says, according to New York law, castle doctrine makes you have the duty to retreat in New York. Do you know anything about a castle doctrine?
There is not a duty there's a limited duty to retreat in New York. If you can retreat with complete safety, you do have to retreat. And there are some exceptions in New York, too. So if the crime is...
All right, no, let's forget New York for 1 minute. You're at a table with your wife. They come over and start screaming at you, and you get frightened. Your wife gets scared. What are your rights to self-defense according to the California criminal jury instructions that you sent me?
California and in Oregon, where this riot took place, you have a complete right to defend yourself using whatever force is necessary to put an end to the threat, which, in the circumstance you described, would mean putting the people out of commission.
You said the slightest touching can be unlawful if it's done in a rude or angry way. What does that mean?
It's, there's something called a battery. Like a sexual battery is a common example where somebody just, grabs somebody from behind or something, and they're not physically damaged, but they don't want it, so the person gets arrested both for battery and even sexual battery. So that's what that is. You're saying, making contact with another person, that's unwanted,
including through his or her clothing, is enough to be convicted of battery. Now, the touching does not have to cause pain. So if the leftists start, let's say, pointing their finger at you and pushing their finger against your clothing, what could you do at that point?
You can use enough force to stop them. You can't damage them. in any significant way.
Okay, what if the man is over 60 and the attacker is 25 years old? What's enough? Tell me what enough force is.
Well, he can use greater force. The older you get, the angrier the person is, the more cohorts are around who may...
Oh, great. So the old white guys now have the ability to defend themselves. Great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Now, what if you're in a car trying to retreat from the mob, and they chase you out of the restaurant, you get in your car, they surround you, and start beating on your car with sticks as they did in Oregon? What can you do then?
I believe that that's very close to a threat of deadly force, because if they get you out of the car, the same weapons that they use, the same gang mentality that they use, they're going to lead to either death or serious injury. I think you can use lethal force in that situation. And, there would be no question. Well, if I told you that the gang of motorcycle people, were angry at a car, pulled the car over, banging on the windows, and the driver pulled out a gun and shot a bunch of them, everybody would go, good. You got the gangbangers. You got the motorcycle gang. Here we have a double standard because they're, quote, protesters.
Well, are there any cases that you've tried in this arena? I mean, that would be illustrative of our questioning?
I had a case where a guy was being rude to somebody's wife, so the man knocked the guy on his butt, and my client was then put on trial for knocking the bully on his butt, and the jury acquitted him. And later on, one of them went up to me and said, he was technically guilty, but we didn't care. The guy got what he deserved. That's not the only one I've done.
So, are you saying that a person can defend themselves?
Yeah,
if
themselves. You have to be calm when you do it. You have to be professional. You can't be acting out your own anger. It's got to be in the realm of what any normal person would do. Yeah,
but what if the guy, as I say, is over 60, and the mob is people in their 20s and 30s? There's no equal force to that.
No, I think the people whose cars were particularly the scene where the car is being pushed, the guy is leaning against it trying to stop it, and they're swarming the car. That one and the one where the guy got out of the car. In both those instances, I think deadly force was on the table.
Well, we're not recommending deadly force on this radio show, and I will caution everyone listening to the following. A very smart woman said to me once, do you want to know that person for the rest of your life? In other words, do you want to be right or do you want to be smart? You can be right and wind up in court for 10 years. Or you could be smart and try to get away in any way you can. I think that's what we're talking about here as well, Dan, isn't it?
Well, you know that in a fight, even if you're a trained martial artist, you will sometimes lose. So even if you're right and even if you think you can win, if you can be safe and not have to hurt somebody, that's better. But at the same time, I don't like the idea that you have to stand down and flee. There's a whole history. I mean, I was reading Stop Mass Hysteria. And you're talking about the 50s and the communist attacks and the us against them. And if you don't stand up to this type of fascism, whether it's Maxine Waters, which is the person cited at the beginning of the book, or these groups on the streets masked, mimicking terror groups or fascists of the past, what's going to happen? At some point, people have to stand up.
That's the bottom line. If we don't stand up, we'll all fall down.
Right.
Because they'll keep going. They'll keep going until they take over every institution in the country, as they almost have already done. The universities are gone. Most police departments have been infiltrated and taken over by left-wing fanatics, as you know, and cops who want to do the right thing are afraid to do the right thing. For example, in Portland, we saw a police officer sitting on his motorcycle doing nothing. Why do you think that was?
I think to me, he looked angry. I bet his superiors instructed him to stand down unless something actually erupted. And I think he was just sitting there going, this really stinks. Because the problem with that approach is that these attackers, these rioters, could at any time lose it and attack somebody. Or somebody getting out of their car or in their car can lose their temper or be scared. And then the violence has already happened. And then the officers respond. It's too late. Preemption is the key to preventing violence. We know that.
Well, Dan, what's the bottom line? Dan Horowitz, you're in a restaurant, and you're actually a guy who's very fair-minded, and politically, I think you're somewhat liberal, by the way, which is your business. No, it's okay. You don't have to disguise yourself in any way. I know where you are in some ways, but I also know that you come from a family of heroes. That I know for a fact. Can I say anything about that or not?
You can talk about it. I thought about that today. How would my dad...
I'm so proud of his father, who was in his 90s, who fought his way from the beaches of Normandy to I think, Berlin in World War II. You also lost your uncle, didn't you?
Yes, he took himself out of a hospital bed to fight in the Battle of the Bulge and died.
So Dan comes from fighters. Dan does not like to retreat when people threaten him. I've seen him in action in the courts. So, Dan, I'm going to ask you, you're in a restaurant with me now. Okay, I'm with you, and they recognize me, and I have my book out, Stop Mass Hysteria, and we're reading from it. And some waiter sees us doing it, and he texts his friends to come and harass us. They come to the table and start yelling, screaming. What do we do?
I mean, I thought about that because you were talking about that earlier, and I was actually thinking of a particular restaurant where we were at where we worried about something like that happening. I would pick up a knife and disguise it in my hand. I would stand up because I'm not going to get hit sitting down, and I would politely ask them to leave. And if we had to, I would suggest we leave, although going out on the street is dangerous. I would look to other people in the restaurant to join in and protect us, including...
They won't do it. No, nobody will do that. They'll look the other way. I know that for a fact.
Probably, but if need be, that knife's going to go where it needs to go to protect me. I'm not going to take any physical violence from somebody who's attacking me.
Well, now you know why Dan is my attorney. He brings a napkin. He brings a napkin to a knife fight. Dan brings a napkin to a knife fight. Well, Dan, hold on. I'm going to take a couple of calls because this is not a joking question. I have a number of people calling on this issue, by the way, including defense attorneys on this stuff. Actually, can I grab this call right now while Dan is on the line? Is there a way to do that if you pull it up for me, Jim? Can you pull up line 4 out of KKOH in Reno? Go ahead. Pull up line 4. Yes, line 4, please. Go ahead quickly.
Again.
What's going on here? We'll have amateur hour here. I'll take a quick break while they figure out how to work the phones.
Savage.
Hey, if you take an atom of nitrogen and you bond it with an atom of oxygen, you create nitric oxide. It's a miracle molecule that your own body makes, which fuels your cardiovascular health, and it also helps keep you vibrant. But as we age, our bodies need help with this important process. Luckily, Super Beets by Human has harnessed the power of nutrient-rich beets to create a superfood that helps your body make more nitric oxide on its own. You see, 1 teaspoonful of Super Beets every day supports your cardiovascular health and blood pressure levels, giving you natural energy with no caffeine kick or sugar high. And we're talking real, healthy, natural energy. Joe from Austin says, Super Beets has helped me stick to my goals of watching what I eat and getting more exercise. I take Super Beets before I work out, and it's a big help with stamina. So call 800-481-0504, 800-481-0504, or SavageLovesBeets.com and find out how you can get a free 30-day supply of Super Beets and free shipping with your first purchase. You heard me right. Free, free, free. Call 800-481-0504 or SavageLovesBeets.com. Right, SavageLovesBeets.com. Savage also loves life.com. And Savage warns, stop the mobs or nation will fall. Click on the Drudge Report to see what we're talking about. We are living in an age of mass hysteria. If ever there was a book that is more necessary than this, let me know what it is. Let me know what it is, because you have Holder, you have Hillary, you have the others egging the mobs onto violence, and they're breaking out in violence, as we saw over the last few weeks. And what happens when it comes to your doorstep or your table side? What are you going to do if you're attacked by Antifa or any of these other groups? The restaurant owners are the ones in the hard place here, because they're held liable for this. Dan, are you with us? Dan Horowitz, lawyer?
I'm here.
Okay. They harass clients seated in the restaurant. Doesn't the restaurant have an obligation to keep a mob out?
I think a restaurant has an obligation once something has happened, to intervene to the best of their ability and to control the entrance and exits to their restaurant. But it's a mob coming in. It can't be controlled by anybody. That's the problem.
Right. That's why the left uses mob tactics. Now, there's a group in Berkeley that has for years been teaching mob violence. They're the ones who taught the girls to put pipes on their arms during protests. I know who they are. I know their names. I know where they work. I know what they're all about. I know who funds them. Why can't Trump simply have the IRS pull the IRS nonprofit status from these groups? That would take a lot of the wind out of their sails, Dan. That's my opinion. In other words, all of these groups are funded by somebody, and a lot of this somebody is one man, a money trader who Jesus warned us about, trading money in the back of the temple. Jesus tried to warn us about people like him. And he's using his ill-begotten gains to fund anti-Americanism because he wants the country destroyed. He wants a worldwide socialist order. He says so.
You know, you've hit on something that's far deeper than just self-defense or not self-defense. I think these Antifa people need to read not Stop Mass Hysteria because they'll just burn it. They should read God, Faith, and Reason that you wrote and get some insight into what the real human condition is, because they have no sense of what a real working person goes through raising a family. They have an ideology in their head which is imposed from the outside.
But Dan, the communist mobs were the same, and 100 million people died because they were not stopped first. If Hitler had been stopped at Munich, there would not have been a Holocaust. And if Antifa is not stopped, there will be a Holocaust in this country.
Savage.